What's going on, my friends? Hank here from Sprues and Brews Scale Modeling. Now, years ago, I made a video here on the channel discussing my 5 top kit recommendations for folks just starting out in this hobby of plastic model building. These are all kits that I thought and still think are great options to help develop those essential skills you're going to need to succeed and have a great time with your scale model work. Now, today, we're going to look at what comes next. After you've gotten your first few builds under your belt, maybe you're looking for something a little more challenging. A higher part count maybe, some more detail, a slightly more involved build. So today I'm going to share my top 5 recommendations for kits to check out that are in that intermediate stage of the hobby. These are kits that are going to push your techniques a bit, force you to do a little more strategic planning, and really help you get to that next level with your scale modeling, all while having a great time, of course. If that sounds good to you, let's hop right into it. Alright folks, so our first kit recommendation here comes from the land of 1/35th scale armor, one of my sweet spots, and one of the most user-friendly scales for intermediate builders looking to improve their talents, in my opinion. This kit comes from the good folks over at Tamiya. It's kit number 35376, their M18 Hellcat US Tank Destroyer. This was a hotly anticipated kit when it came out back in 2022, and I believe it will remain an industry leader for years to come. Now, a few reasons that this kit makes our intermediates list. First off, it's Tamiya. You know the engineering is going to be top-notch, so you're not going to find yourself fighting with the assembly and fit. That said though, this kit is a bit more challenging than some of Tamiya's older kits. It doesn't feature the classic bathtub-style lower hull. This lower hull comes in pieces, so you'll have to line those up and ensure you get a nice symmetrical fit there before moving on to the rest of the build. This is a really good habit to develop for more complicated kits that you might pick up down the road. Beyond that, it has link-in-length tracks rather than the basic rubber band tracks. These provide more detail, but they also take a little more work to assemble and some more care painting. And then finally, the main reason that I have this kit on here is because it's a vehicle with an open top turret. This presents a nice challenge for the practicing modeler for a few reasons. A, there's more detail in there that you can see. And B, you've got to plan how you're going to paint that interior. Unlike your standard buttoned up tank, you have to consider how to paint the interior sections of this vehicle one color, while painting the outside another color. You got to figure out how to weather the interior. This is all a little more challenging. All that together makes this a wonderful kit for intermediate builders to check out. I also made a video series on building this kit up, so you can use those for reference to help you as you go along. So our first recommendation for a great intermediate kit to me is a 1/35th scale M18 Hellcat. Alright, moving on. Our next kit, surprise surprise, is also from Tamiya. But this is the last Tamiya entry on this list. Whoa. This is kit number 61120, comes to us from 2019. It's Tamiya's 1/48th scale P38FG Lightning. Now, if you've watched the channel at all, you know I love my 1/48 scale aircraft kits. I think it's the absolute sweet spot for aviation models. And the reason this particular kit makes our intermediate list has as much to do with the aircraft itself as it has to do with the model. The P38 is, well, weird. It's a weird plane. The twin-engine, twin-boom design was unlike anything around, really, at the time of its production run, and it's gone down in history as one of the most iconic and recognizable military aircraft of all time. And because the P38 is so strangely designed, the folks at Tamiya had to do some really clever engineering and design work to get their own scale model of the aircraft perfected. That said, this model is an absolute treat to build, but it's a very, very involved, sometimes delicate construction. The cockpit, the gear bays, the exhaust setup, the forked tail, all really precise assemblies. The Lightning also features a tricycle landing gear, so you've got to use some kit-supplied weights to get the aircraft to sit properly. This kit is no weekend slammer. She's going to take you a bit of time, but that investment is well worth the effort. It builds up to be a gorgeous model, and it's super rewarding once all is said and done. This kit makes the list because it's going to push you outside your comfort zone if you've already knocked out a few 1/48 scale kits, maybe some P51s or BF109s for example, and it's going to make you slow down, take your time, and really focus on the details. So our second kit on this list, to me, is 1/48 scale P38F/G Lightning. Moving on to our third recommendation here, this one might be a bit of a surprise to some folks, but stick with me. This is a figure kit. Kit number 35304 from the good folks at Alpine Miniatures. Now, why is a figure kit on this list? Through all the years I've been doing this, I've observed that figure painting can be one of the most intimidating things for many of the vehicle scale modelers out there. Lots of folks are really comfortable building up tanks or aircraft, but when it comes to adding a crewman or a pilot to those wonderful vehicles, Folks get really nervous painting up a figure because they're worried that a goofy looking paint job on a figure is going to take away from their otherwise great vehicle work. But fear not, a little practice following some simple steps can make you a really solid figure painter in no time at all. It's really not that scary. And the reason that I've got an Alpine Miniatures resin figure on this intermediate list is because, in my opinion, attempting to paint up your first high quality figure can be tremendously eye-opening. Before I picked up a resin figure, I'd painted up many older plastic figures with really soft, muddy details, and the results were just meh. And then I bought an Alpine kit, and when it was done, I was like, whoa, this actually looks pretty good. A really skilled figure painter can make a not so great figure sculpt look amazing. And on the flip side, a beautifully sculpted figure can really help a novice figure painter make something they're proud of. You can get away with more, let's say, with a top shelf figure. And the reason I recommend trying this is because feeling good about the figure you just painted up is super encouraging. It inspires you to try more figure painting, and I believe that figures are such a good way to add that extra level of realism and life to your model kits. Now, this particular figure from Alpine is one of their newer releases, and I also have a multi-part series on painting this guy up. I've always said, and I always will continue to say, I'm primarily a vehicle modeler, but I love painting figures, and each one you do, you're going to get a little better at it. So that said, pick up one of these resin figures, give them a go. You're definitely going to learn something along the way. On to our fourth recommendation here, and back to the vehicles we go. Kit number 4 is one after my own heart. You guys know I love me a Sherman. This one comes from the folks at Osca Model. It's kit number 35028, their 1/35th scale British Sherman Firefly IC. And yes, it's pronounced Osca. That's the correct Japanese pronunciation, not Asuka, even though it's spelled like that in English. Now, the reason this kit makes our list of intermediate builds is because I think it's a wonderful jumping off point for folks looking to dive into more complex vehicle kits outside of your Tamiyas, your Academies, your Italeries, etc. Osca kits are beautifully detailed, and they've got lots of delicate sub-assemblies. Where a Tamiya Sherman bogie might have 6 to 8 parts, an Osca bogie has maybe 15 or 16. There's a lot that goes into these kits, and the engineering is very precise, and the resulting build definitely shows that. Osca Shermans, in my opinion, are the best ones out there. I love them. I've built many over the years. In fact, really any of their Sherman kits could hold this place on the list. I do love this one though because it comes with a whole pile of accessories to use for stowage on the vehicle. I'm a big fan of adding stowage and camouflage to models to give them a real sense of individuality rather than leave them stock right out of the box, and this kit does offer a ton of options for that. But the real reason this Osca Firefly makes the list is because it takes a subject matter many modelers are already comfortable with, the M4 Sherman, and adds a new level of complexity. You're already going to understand the basic components of a Sherman if you've built up one of the Tamiya offerings, for example, but this model will really allow you to see more of the detailed bits that make up this tank. So I highly recommend checking out one of these Osca Shermans. They're wonderful kits to help build up your skills. And our final entry on this list of great model kits for intermediate builders is probably one of the most involved, challenging kits on here, but it's also one of the most enjoyable model kits I've ever built. This kit came out in 2021 from the folks over at Border Model. Kind of an unusual one, but this is their 1/35th scale BF109 G6. I love BF109s, I'm a BF109 junkie, and when I learned that Border was coming out with a 1/35th scale 109, I was very excited. There are so few 1/35th scale aircraft out there, and that's a real shame because it's so cool to see these birds in the same scale as all of your favorite armor kits. Border Model did a phenomenal job with this kit. Lots of parts, full engine interior, engine cowl covers you can fix open or closed, articulating flaps, control surfaces, optional gun pods, optional rocket pods, a drop tank, photo etch. This kit is so nice. Again, as mentioned with many of the kits on this list today, if you're used to simpler, beginner-friendly kits, this is going to pull you out of your comfort zone, but it's nothing you can't handle with a little time and patience. I also have a multi-part series on how to build and paint this kit up, so you can check that out for some guidance as well. If you're interested in aircraft modeling at all, and you've already built a handful of aircraft kits already, I highly recommend checking this guy out. It's a truly unique build on the market today. It's so fun, and I promise you are going to learn a lot from it. So my friends, that is our list of great kits for intermediate builders to check out to really help you bring your skills to the next level. Do you agree with the list? Are there any other intermediate kits you'd recommend for builders out there? Let me know down in the comments below. So thank you for watching, my friends, and until next time, be well, happy building, cheers.